I'm always there.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I'm Ann Timmons, and I'm the co-chair of Art at First. And this is our first performance in Creatives Create, celebration of our garden. Creatives Create was the brainchild of Kathy Young. Where did she go? She was here. And the Earth Care team way back in the spring of 2021. And we introduced this concept of adding performances and visual arts to our church celebration of spring, our celebration of Earth Day. Art at First introduced it to our committee way back in our June meeting last year, so it's been those many months. Our group enthusiastically agreed to help support this celebration of art inspired by the beauty of nature, as we see specifically in our church garden, and more generally in the beauty of God's creation. Our first offering today is, in fact, a new short play that I wrote just for this very occasion. And I'm lucky to have two fabulous actors who are church members who could help me shape it into the staged reading that we're presenting today. It's called In the Garden, and it was inspired by the South Lawn Garden. And we had hopes that we could actually stage it there today, but after one rehearsal, these hopes just kind of evaporated because, as you know, it's very noisy out there. So we thought being here and seeing the trees and having some of the noise of Fifth Avenue coming into this room would give us a little bit of that same feeling of being in the garden. It's inspired by, the play explores the healing power of nature, especially in the middle of Manhattan, which we are lucky to have. It's a power strong enough to provide balm to the most cynical New Yorkers and to call forth the miracle of chance encounters. Arenka Jakubiak will read the role of Judy, who is the New Yorker, and Doug Shepherd will read the role of Sam, who tends the church garden. I'll read stage directions to set the scene. Tuesday, mid-afternoon, spring, New York City. A woman enters a church garden on the corner of Fifth Avenue and 11th Street. We hear sirens and loud cars, the sounds of city traffic.
Oh, yes. Ah, yes. The Japanese can keep their Shinrin-yoku. I mean, garden bathing in the city? In the forest? I'd rather have this garden. It provides all of the tranquility that I need. Oh. Leaving just now, Gigi gave me quite the look. Oh, good. You're going there. It will help. Maybe even go inside. No, thank you, Gigi. This is where I find my tranquility. So come on, garden, I am here. I'm ready. No, what then? Well, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I need to be more supine. Better flow that way. Descend on me like a dove. No. Oh, I mean, not a dove. Not necessarily. Any bird will do. Well, not a jay or a hawk. A peaceful bird, yes. That's what I meant. A general dove, not that specific dove, that Jordan River dove. Okay, let's try this again. Ah, there it is.
Oh, sorry. Didn't know anyone was here. Don't let me bother you.
Well, it's a little late for that, isn't it?
Judy, what are you doing here? It's Tuesday afternoon. Aren't you usually chained to your desk about now?
I took the day off.
A mental health day. Good for you. I'll just leave you to it then.
Oh, wait, Sam?
Yeah? You need something?
How much time do you have?
All the time in the world.
Mind if I work while we talk?
It's your house.
Yes. Everyone's welcome here. I told you when you first started coming. When was it? Ah, yes. It was unseasonably warm that January. You'd just been let go from...
Yes, and I was so unprepared. I thought, in my middle age, that I should be able to handle such disappointment. I surprised myself, which only made it worse.
Always does.
Yeah, anyway, I remembered my Aunt Viv told me that if I ever needed a place of refuge to come here, she knew that I'd have thoughts about it. But she promised that this garden would be good for whatever ails me. So, I came, out of desperation you could say. That day I really needed a sense of...
Peace?
Ha! No, that would have been a real stretch. No, I just wanted to sit somewhere and feel normal, like my whole identity had just been blown into smithereens. And you saw me. I was a mess. You must have thought that I was some privileged little ninny carrying on some.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, come on. I had severance pay. You see people much worse off than me all the time.
That all the time.
Yeah, you do.
Newsflash! All events have been canceled in the Trauma Olympics.
That's funny.
So is that why you're here? That day still bothers you?
No, I managed to reinvent myself, at least professionally.
So why? It is Tuesday after all.
I wish that I could tell you. It's just that I don't know. For a while now, I've had this low-grade sort of malaise, I think is what it is. I have tried everything. I've tried treating it with wine, with movies and friends, and of course, with my cat, Gigi.
But it's not enough?
No, none of it has ever been enough. I mean, I miss the way that things used to be.
In the before time.
Oh, not just that. Hey, I haven't seen you since my mom, she passed recently. Nothing to do with the virus, thank God. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Your mother, had she been ill?
Not really. Not in any terminal way. But she was tired of life, ready to go, she said.
Ah.
I tried to talk her out of it, back into life somehow. I said, Mom, what good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play.
I don't...
And I'm wise again, huh? Well, never mind. The point is, I didn't think that she meant it. I mean, how could she?
Wish to leave this mortal life?
Yes, I don't get it. We still love her, me, my brother, and her sisters.
Perhaps she felt her work was done here.
But how could she want to? To be done, to be gone forever.
Was your mother a woman of faith?
Well, I grew up going to Sunday school and church suppers.
So she was a churchgoer.
Yes,
But did she believe?
yes, she did. She really did.
But you don't. And you disagree.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Your mother probably viewed her death as a gateway to another life. While to you,
She's just gone. And she's not coming back. Out of my life forever.
and you have regrets?
Regrets. I had a few. Sorry, lame musical humor is my go-to defense mechanism.
I know. You miss her.
Yes. No. It's not uppermost in my mind, but there are so often I am knocked sideways by the realization. And surprisingly, I am not surprised by that. Am I boring you?
Sorry. I just saw something out of place. There. You were saying.
No, you're right. I mean, I know it happens to everyone if they live long enough, that kind of loss. So, I have been meaning to ask you, how long have you been doing this?
Tending the garden?
My whole life.
Fun fact. But I mean this whole professional church person thing. Have you always been working this gig?
Why do you ask?
Well, you don't seem like you actually, I mean, well, you don't actually seem like, I have known you since 2017, Sam, and you have not ever once offered me the Kool-Aid.
The what?
You haven't tried any of that usual pastor stuff, trying to help me by fixing me. I mean, look, I am asking for help here, and you just randomly start weeping.
Do you want my help?
I asked you a question first.
I've been here all the time.
Really? Because I checked out the church website quite a while ago, during the first lockdown. Thought that it might be good to, anyway, you were nowhere to be found.
Website updates take some time.
Yeah, but 2 years is a long time. Anyway, when I looked you up last Friday, you still weren't there.
Is that so?
Yeah, and then Sunday, I came in. Yeah, how about that? While the show was going on, I asked when you'd be finished, and the guy at the desk, he looked at me like I had 6 heads. And he said yes, he was sure. They didn't have a Pastor Sam here, or a Janitor Sam, or a Gardener Sam, or any damn Sam at all.
I doubt very much Eric said damn.
Well, you know that he didn't. That's just me being angry. Because you tricked me. You got me to walk into this building when all I wanted to do was stay on the outside.
And did you see anything or hear anything that
That's
helped?
not the point.
Isn't it? You said that's what you wanted. Help.
Help me if you can, I'm feeling down.
This one I know.
Sorry, deflection. The truth is, I'm suffering from some huge existential emptiness. And I would do anything to get rid of it. Right now, I would walk over broken glass in a bed of hot coals. So help me God.
Okay then, I will.
What? What? Who are you? No, just go away. Let me sit in the garden. That's what works for me.
But you
Well,
asked.
stop doing that. You tricked me. You won't leave me in peace. What do you want?
The question is, what do you want?
Do I need to say it?
You need to say it.
I want to feel again. To be heart whole, to take some joy in life.
And what's keeping you from doing that now?
You tell me, you know all and see all.
There are a couple of things. Sadness, of course, grief. Those will be with you now every day. But their strangeness will wear off. But even without those, you're carrying around a larger than average amount of skepticism, mistrust, suspicion.
The armor that any reasonable person puts on before they venture out in this city.
It can get pretty heavy. Want to know how to get rid of it?
You're going to tell me whether I want to know or not.
No, not if you're not ready.
Do you think I'm ready?
You tell me.
Yes, I'm ready. What? That's it? A 12-step slogan?
Many people say it. Not everyone can do it.
But it sounds so simple. Why couldn't you tell me that before? I have been seeing you around here for years.
You wouldn't have listened. You weren't ready.
Well, how do you know that I am now?
You asked.
That's all you have to say?
And this.
My mother's favorite. When I was little and anxious about something or the other, she would often say,
Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon, in all his glory, was not clothed like one of these.
so you think I can do it?
I know you can. You always could. You just needed someone to root for you.
She was my champion.
She still is.
End of play. Here before we move on to the rest of our readings, because nobody else needs this space. So, talk amongst yourselves for a couple minutes. All right, so now we have a short prayer by Bonnie. Is that sounding amplified at all? I don't think we'll hear you.
Good.
It sounds like it's on. We're not ready for you yet. So. Sorry. All right, so I think it sounds like it's on. Yes. Okay, good. Right, so we have a short prayer written by Bonnie Boyd, and I think if we all speak into the microphone, maybe cheat over this way a little, that would be good. We used to have a mic on the podium, but for some reason we don't now, so. I just want
the relationship between our capacity to, our God-given capacity to relate to beauty, and how that connected with nature, and how that connected with our religion. And this was a wonderful discussion about all of that, and so my prayer reflects that sort of awe of the power in God who gave us this capacity. So when we see something beautiful, and I think having the art show is an example of it. People were struck with the beauty. And so it turned into a poem, actually. I'm not a poet, I'm a painter. But it turned into a poem reflecting on these things. It's called The Sunset, the Mountain, and the Tiny Blue Flower. Beauty connects us to the source and the power. We see, we feel, and we touch. The color of the sunset, the scale of the mountain, and the glow of the tiny blue flower. Human connection, the greatest gift of all, surrounds us in love each day and each hour. So cherish and remember the power of the sunset, the mountain, and the tiny blue flower.
Lovely, thank you. Bonnie, is that poem printed up and hanging up in the Great Hall with your artwork?
It was there.
Becky says yes.
No, the poem wasn't there.
The poem isn't there? Maybe we could print it and put it up there and hang it up with your artwork. Well, we'll talk to Kathy Young about that, because I know that some
I
of
sent
it,
her a copy.
she sent you a code. All right, we will somehow make those available, I think, to people at some point if that is requested. So now we have a really lovely treat from Joan Ludershen. She is reading something that she wrote originally for the Blessing of the Gardens and Animals that Reverend Dr. Barbara Davis held in October 2020. She adds that, of course, it is still relevant and connects directly to her painting in the gallery that is on display now in the Great Hall. If you haven't seen those, and you see Joan's painting, you'll say, oh, of course, this absolutely reinforces what she's going to talk about today. So Joan is going to read Thoughts for First Church, Blessing of the Street Trees.
Thanks for coming, everybody. And yes, indeed, Reverend Davis held a blessing for the animals in 2020, which included the dedication of the gardens. And the Earth Care Action, at the time the Earth Care Committee was at that point already watering and caring for the street trees. So some of us suggested that in this blessing, the street trees around the perimeter of First Church, we have 14 tree beds and 12 trees, and we hope to have 2 or 3 more soon, would be included. And so Barbara Davis asked me for this meditation, and I wrote this. Trees and forests all across the planet are a divine gift. In New York City, we're blessed with the urban forest, our parks, backyards, and street trees. The trees around First Church beautify our path to the church from all directions, and they extend their beauty and shade and grace not only over the sidewalks, but over the church gardens. As everywhere, the mere sight of the trees is a balm for our restless and stressed urban spirits. If we need to be reminded of miracles, we can look at the base of the trees and the canopies. How little these trees receive from their sidewalks around, and nonetheless how bounteous is their return with rich foliage. We thank them for sharing their benefits with us and showing us how to overcome boundaries and link inside and outside. May we bless them too with gratitude and prayer and action, extending our care for the urban forests beyond our iron gates and into the city.
All right, and now we're gonna have a real change of pace. And Luann, can you Ordway is sharing with us a first draft of a children's story that she wrote. And this is a work in progress, but it's inspired by our 12th Street Garden and a Sunday school lesson that Nicky was teaching last fall based on Jeremiah 4:24 through 25. That scripture reads, "I looked at the mountains and they were quaking. All the hills were swaying. I looked and there were no people. Every bird in the sky had flown away." And Nicky says that around the time she was preparing her lesson, she saw a bird hopping near a tree on the garden's northeast corner and wondered if the bird's nest was in that tree. So that led her to ask some further questions. Is the bird's entire world centered around that one tree? Which kind of feeds into what Joan is saying, right, about the trees and the tree canopy and how important they are. What would happen to the bird if our church, or Joan and her tree watering group, failed to be good stewards of that tree? So she reflected on the special significance of birds in ancient and modern imagery, and she decided to write a story about one bird and one tree. So we'll be the very first people like in the whole world to hear Nicky's story, Planet 429. So I'm going to adjust a couple things so they can come up here. If this can come down, maybe we'll just do that. Let's see if we can just do it.
That would be super. Any distraction that could be provided would be fabulous. Do you want the book? I know you want the device. And then the story is on. All right, Laura, do you want to sit with me? Hi. So I thought I would at least show a picture that sort of inspired the concept for the story. The Little Prince is much beloved in our home. And I sort of, as I was mulling over this very focused notion, oh, of course you need to see it. You need to see it, of, you know, one bird and one tree. I thought, you know, what if a planet looked like that, with just one of those giant trees? So I grew up in northeastern Florida, where we have a lot of live oaks. So in my mind, it was not the baobab tree of the Little Prince, but a live oak that sort of curled around this tiny plant called 429. On a night in November, way up in the sky, if you look through a telescope using one eye, you will see a small planet called 429. It has only one tree, plus 4 birds in the eye. The singular tree on the planet out there holds up millions and billions of leaves in the air. They're softer than velvet and stronger than steel. For a cut, it is said they have power to heal. And when the wind blows on this planet, it's strong. It's as if all the leaves begin singing a song, for the branches all seem to be woven as one, which conveniently shades all the birds from the sun. High up in the tree are some flowers with thorns. Some berries grow too, though they curl like French horns. The trunk of the tree is all knotted and curled. For the birds, it's this trunk that's the heart of their world. At the base of the tree, where the trunk meets the ground, the birds make their nests in the sand all around. For the birds of this planet named 429 do not fly, but they walk, and they dig in their mud. Because down on the planet among the trees' roots are mushrooms of sorts. They're sort of like fruits, and these mushrooms are great, though it's true that they stink. They are good for a meal and for tea, for a drink. They are good for the nests where the birds take their rests, and for sitting and having a chat with 3 guests. But just at this moment on 429, one bird is alone, regarding the line. Meet Mitch. Remember Mitch? We forgot. She's a bird. Yeah, do you want to go fishing? Or we can stay, we can imagine her. She might look a little bit like a flamingo in our stuffed animal version. In the story version. We're not quite sure yet. Okay. She's the smallest of all the brood. She's back there. Though she is a bit noisy, and some say she's rude, Her eyes are enormous, her beak's a bit large, and she carries herself as if she were in charge. On the night before this one, it seemed a bit hot. Midge went for a swim in the little lake dock, whose water was clear, though now it is not. As she pondered the heat and the gray of the lake, she dipped her toe in, and she felt a small shake. But a lake doesn't shake by itself. Not even a little. Not even a smidge. She squinted around, and that's what she saw. A crack in the pathway as narrow as straw. So she followed the crack, and it led to a pit. When she gazed in the pit, she could feel her heart split. There were gouges and holes where a tree root was kept. Withered and dying, the tree root was wrecked. Then another shake came, and with it a boom, and the root shuddered gently. She saw it. I see, murmured Midge. So the source of this sound is the mining that's going on under the ground. Well, our digging of mushrooms is hurting our tree. We're digging it up by its roots, I can see. If we don't stop it soon, then the tree will fall down. And if the tree falls, reasoned Midge with a frown, I know what will happen. I'll tell the whole town. I'll tell them tomorrow before morning tea. I know they will fix it. I know they will see. The very next morning, she jumped from her glass. She smoothed out her feathers. She puffed out her chest. By telling the birds about all that she'd found, Midge would save the whole world. Then she slipped on the ground, and she tumbled down into a tunnel and bumped at the feet of the main mushroom miner, who jumped. Maxwell, cried Midge, what good luck we should meet. Oh, yes? Queried Maxwell, while wiping his feet. I've discovered some trouble involving the mine and the roots of the tree. Then she straightened her spine, and I said to myself, as she made her voice low, it's important that Max be the first one to know. Then yesterday evening I went to the lake, and she told the whole tale without taking a break. When her story was done, Maxwell nodded and frowned. I am sad that you feel that there's trouble around. I am doing no harm to this tree, to be fair. I'm just digging between a few roots here and there. But Maxwell, snapped Midge, it's not feeling, it's truth. Oh, I see, chuckled Maxwell. This struggles with you. You naive little child, you do not understand. We need all these mushrooms deep under the sand. And I am providing those things that you need. It isn't my fault that we birds need to feed. This tree is our home, interrupted the child. We don't freeze in the winters. In summers it's mild, in mornings the air smells of freedom and rain, and the breeze gently hums when the day starts to wane. And all that's because we existed in shade. But if the tree falls, no more shade. As for food, she continued, I think it may be that those berries are growing way up in the tree. And then Maxwell laughed. So you think you can fly? It's impossible, Midge. I would dare you to try, except that my patience is now running thin. There is work to be done, and I've got to begin. But I see that you're worried. Let's talk in a week, Maxwell said as he pecked at some roots with his beak. Midge emerged from the mine, and she felt a bit vexed, but she knew absolutely the bird to see next. Hello, Midge Bird, called Owen. Let's have a good chat. You'll never believe who I saw in a hat. Oh, look at your feathers, so messy and flat. Thanks, Owen, she said. I'll give it a clean. But I wanted to talk about something I've seen, and Owen, I want you to listen to me. Our tree is in trouble, and thus, so are we. I'm worried that if we don't do something fast, our window for saving our home will have passed. In time, I will continue on with as he smoothed out the feathers on each of her wings. She exhaled a relief and began her long tale of the pathway of the lake, of the root of the frail trees. And the pit by the mine and the wood all met. I see, murmured Owen. His eyes were intent. The problem with feathers like yours is the down. But with feathers, in fact, I'm the best in our town. I'll fluff them right up just as quick as can be. Thanks, Owen, said Midge. But the mine? But the tree? We're digging it up by its roots. This is bad. Ah, yes. Owen answered. His chin rose in time. If the tree starts to lean, I know just what we'll do. We will batten the hatches. We'll make a big screw under each of the nests that we built on the ground to protect from the leaves that will swirl all around. But the leaves aren't the point. Midge could hear herself say, it is all the tree. Do you want to get my gun? That's in trouble today. The whole of the trunk, every blossom, each bough. We've got to stop digging for mushrooms right now. But this is the way that we live. Oh, it's I think you're a little bit out of your head. Look, your feathers are ruffled. Perhaps it's the heat. Take a rest in your nest and have something to eat. And speaking of which, it is time that I die. And I need some more mushrooms. I'm on to mine. But wait! Called out Midge. I'm not crazy, don't go! Midge plodded alone to the far end of town to visit the last of the birds just to see if this one might possibly help save the tree. Old Mother Bird was the blackest of all. Welcome she did as she gathered her share. For the third and last time on that long day, Midge told how the tree roots were dying away, how the whole tree could fall, how they might lose it all. And she ended as usual. We must stop right away. After thinking a moment, the old bird replied, we are lucky to have you, dear Midge, as our guide. We birds have a problem, must change right away. But how we will do it, I just couldn't say. And so you, my dear Midge, you're so smart and so agile, you should do something quick. I am much, much too fragile. I think I've lost everyone's attention.
I can finish it.
Sure, yeah.
All right, time to read this.
All right.
Yes, so good. The end is so good here. I'll start with Old Mother. Right. This is previous, previously on it. Okay. Dead and dry. Where am I? Which swirled in the air before fluttering down as Midge plodded alone to the far end of town to visit the last of the birds just to see if this one might possibly help save the tree. Old Mother Bird was the wisest of all. Welcome, she crooned as she gathered her shawl. For the third and last time on that long, long, long day, Midge told how the tree roots were dying away, how the whole tree could fall, how they might lose it all. And she ended as usual, we must stop right away. After thinking a moment, the old bird replied, we are lucky to have you, dear Midge, as our guide. We birds have a problem, must change right away. But how we will do it, I just couldn't say. And so you, my dear Midge, you're so smart and so agile. You should do something quick. I am much, much too fragile. Too ancient to change, too weak for a fight. My future is dim, but yours, it is bright. And I'm sure you'll discover the right thing to do, whether ladders or pulleys or something else new. Yes, you are the future. The future is yours. Sorry. Yes, you are the future. The future is you. But I told you already, Midge shouted, that, ow, a tree branch had fallen. The future is now. Did the birds on the planet named 429 find a way to stop digging down in their mine? Or did they keep digging with heads in the sand? Has the tree fallen? And where did it land? The truth of the matter is I do not know. I'm afraid what a telescope maybe will show. But I hope and imagine that Midge has prevailed. That the mine has been boarded and shut up and nailed. Although the tree's damaged, it's still standing tall. Its roots are regrowing. Its branches won't fall. And the birds on that planet way out in the sky? Perhaps every one of them learned how to fly. The end. And my mind is just firing on all cylinders now about how we can turn this into a story that maybe the kids can act or something. Yeah. We'll talk. I love a parable told in Dr. Seuss rhyming couplets. It's new and different and scriptural. That was so fantastic. And we saw this entertainment also in other ways, the real bonding and the warmth. And thank you for that. It was a treat to see that. Thank you. Next, I want to invite up for very different, changing gears, a piece from Mary O'Hara Smith. She's going to read her meditation about the church garden. And she says, by way of introduction, when I first thought about writing something inspired for the garden, the first thing that came to mind was doing the Qigong classes on the South Lawn. Now, those classes before had been done in the parlor, and it was being a meditative practice. Qigong, it was typically quiet, dimly lit. And so immediately, Mary says, being on the lawn changed the dynamic, as we can hear. Early mornings on Fifth Avenue were pretty noisy. And of course, we were doing it in the morning sunlight, which must have been glorious. But the thing that really struck with me, she says, is how focused I got on the trees. I felt it was a completely different relationship with them from what we experienced during coffee hour these days. But during Qigong, I felt really as if I got to know those trees in a much more intimate way. And I suppose having had that experience made me more open to looking at other trees in other places in a new way. And so she's titled her piece, Finding Grace Among the Trees. Mary O'Hara Smith.
For many years, I participated in Meg Harper's Qigong classes at First Church, finding this meditative practice to be a valuable and prayerful experience. Meg uses the tree as metaphor, so trees are never far from mind during the classes. Several summers ago, we did a series of early morning outdoor classes on the church lawns. Engaging in this meditative practice outdoors changed the experience more radically than I expected. The connection with nature was immersive. The trees became less metaphor and more a force of their own. What I remember best about those sessions is focusing on the trees on the south lawn, really looking at them, studying individual leaves, noting the interplay of light and shade, the movement of the leaves as breezes touched the branches, dark branch against lighter green leaf, variety of sizes and shapes, trees constantly in motion against the building's unyielding stone. I felt as if I came to know those trees in a much more intimate way, becoming aware of their structure and composition. And then I began to think about how long they have stood there, gracing our grounds. What have they witnessed? How has the environment around them changed? How many generations have found relief in their shade? The tree metaphor of our Qigong classes took on a new and deeper dimension. I visit another tree regularly in my Lower East Side neighborhood. I live directly north of the Williamsburg Bridge, and the tree I love is in a little park just south of the bridge. It's a beautiful, majestic evergreen, tall and full, bushy branches extending benevolently. From its size, I surmise it must have been growing there for generations. On the east side of the park sits PS 110, where generations of children, my own included, have begun their educational journeys. To the west sits the new East Side Nursing Home, previously known as the home of the Sages of Israel. So this tree has been witness to young lives just beginning and lives drawing to a close. So much history has passed by, and there the tree still stands, silently, gracefully, keeping watch over the neighborhood. Every time my daily errands take me south of the bridge, I make a point of walking through the park and stopping for a moment to check in with my tree. And then when I continue on my way, I feel just a little calmer, quieter, in tune with nature, even as the traffic rumbles by on the bridge overhead. Dear Lord of the sky, the earth, and the trees, may we never lose the connections with your beautiful world that give us strength and purpose. Nourish and sustain us as you do the trees, and give us peace. Amen.
Thank you, Mary. That was really thought-provoking and beautiful and and I think just completely, encapsulating the spirit of Creatives Create. Now we have two short prayers, one from Barbara Davis, which is going to be read by Lou Ann Gilliland, and one from Joan and Reed Ryan, which is going to be read by Martha Terry.
Loving and creative God, we come before you in awe of how you shape and nourish the world in which we live. When we think about your creation, we can't help but consider how we are connected to all other living things through you. The tulips and trees in our garden are our siblings. The birds that alight on our lawn are dear friends. Even the grass under our feet when we play in the lawn is our cousin. When we feel the sun shine down on our shoulders and face, when we see the blue sky or hear the song of the ocean waves, we know that you are near. Remind us when we feel you nearby that your presence is a comfort to all creation, that you are the lover of ants and butterflies as much as you are a lover of humans. Remind us that in seeking you, we can find your presence in each other and in all your creation.
This from Joan and Reed Ryan. Holy Lord, Creator of all that is, thank you for this beautiful world you gave us and for the tiny, glorious piece of it at 12th Street and 5th Avenue that reminds us always of your constant presence and gift. Forgive us for ignoring the part we are called to play in healing and preserving your world, and for allowing the damage to its health and beauty to continue. And help us to be strong in the efforts to stop the changes and destruction that threaten your holy gift to us. We pray these things in the strong name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you both. Those were lovely poems. Prayers. Read beautifully. And now we have some reflections on the garden written by our youth and Sunday school students that is accompanying their artwork that's hanging up in the Great Hall. Audrey is going to come read those. Youthful Reflections on the First Presbyterian Gardens.
So we have a range of ages represented here. David, who I think is 1, up to, I think our oldest is 17. So a lot of really great reflections here. So we have Annabeth says, spring is starting. I don't like spring. I like the cold, but I do like the colors of spring. Amelia says, I think our garden is amazing. It's very peaceful. Ren says, I like the garden because it is a nice place to sit. And I will add, we have even more places to sit with these benches, so I invite you all to go sit on those as well. Aurora says, I think the garden is good, really good. August says, I drew a picture of my Aunt Donna when she came to our church. The shimmer of God is shining down on her because she just passed away recently. Harry says, I was inspired by the tree. David says, no quote, but he had a fun time playing with his sister. Russell says, I drew a bug because it likes fruit and we have a fruit tree. Thomas says, the church gardens remind me of the stained glass when the sun shines through it. Jonah says, when the sun is shining and the church opens its doors, the sun is so bright you have to go back inside the church. Harper says, my inspiration is the grass bed because I find it serene in its own way. Thank you all.
occasion by award-winning poet and pastor emeritus of First Presbyterian Church, J. Barrie Shepherd. And it's going to be read by Doug Shepherd, different spelling, no relation. And the title of the poem is To Lie Down in Green Pastures.
I'm tempted to do this the way Barrie sometimes but I'll try to get it into this mic. Righty-tighty, lefty, and the speaker just fell on me. Okay. To Lie Down in Green Pastures by J. Barrie Shepherd. Fifth Avenue's only green space left between Washington Square and Central Park. That's how folk would describe it back in the day. A city block of sacred pause, of green and autumn gold, plus springtime splashes of yellow, pink, even purple. And in the occasional fragrant whiff of fresh mown grass to remind our sad, starved, city-deprived senses of everything we were missing. Dougal and Kirsty, our two diminutive Yorkshire Terriers, would play run and fetch, chasing one another across deep cushioned lawns to the amazed delight of astonished passers-by. Summer cookouts, barbecues, rummage sales, and weddings. One wedding, I recall, neath a flower-bedecked chuppah created by Bella, our upstairs neighbor from across the street, the granddaughter of Marc Chagall. Even snow-decked Christmas carol sing-alongs found welcome in these wide-open, tall tree-shaded spaces. And all the while, below, lay the slumbering ashes of our very earliest first churches. Transferred, transhumed here out of Wall Street in our flight toward the suburbs of 2 centuries ago. This great world city can boast many shrines, temples to art and music, history, architecture, learning, sights and sights that must be seen before you die. But to glimpse the essence, taste and touch the stillness, venture on the mystery, you need to walk a while, sit a moment, lose yourself, be found again in the almost secret gardens of Old First.
Thank you, Doug, for that beautiful and heartfelt reading. And to close our program today, James Hollander is going to do a demonstration of how to create a beautiful, healthy salad.
Thank you. Hi, friends. The demo is going to be more outside when I can share it with you. But, First Church has allowed me not only to enjoy the beautiful garden, but to enjoy our beautiful kitchen. I've been serving this community for 17 years. And all the while doing so, for many years, I was also a demonstration chef for the Union Square Market. And that market taught me how to kind of be responsible about how we use food, what we do with food, and make use of every morsel, because there are so many of us in need. And when I look at the garden and you look at the seasons, I look at the food in very much the same way. Is that I like to eat local, I like to eat seasonal. Not often can I feed this community that way, but today I'd like to offer you just a little demonstration. This is what we used to do at the market. Is we wanted to encourage people to be comfortable with food, to look at ramps, to look at arugula, all of those things you thought you didn't like as a kid. It can always find a pair or a match, and you can make it delicious, and you can feel good about supporting your local farmers, and just sort of eating in a better way. The local bees, they give us the local honey. In this case, I have the earliest of the salad greens that have come out with some of our farmers, as well as spinach. Asparagus, of course, everybody knows is May. It's May, so it's time for asparagus. One thing that I discovered as an adult is I love radishes. Radishes are out in May. White radish and red radish, two totally different tastes, but they work so beautifully together. In addition to that, I have the scallions. I'm an onion guy. There's not an onion I don't like. And I have scallions, and I have, what else do I have? Oh, that's all I did here. I did olive oil and a very simple vinaigrette, just to sort of marry it together, give it something, not to overpower any of the flavors, because each one of these things on their own is delicious. So we call it an amuse-bouche. It's a little bit of this. We chopped it up so that we don't need a utensil, a plastic fork, or even a wooden fork, or a potato starch fork. And I encourage you to come outside, enjoy this, and a couple of other things which are not really of the season, but we can excuse that. Because what we are doing is we're using things that we already have. We're not buying things that we're throwing out and wasting. If you ever walk through the South Wing kitchen, open the refrigerator. You'll see something that's left over from something else. And by all means, if it's open and available, help yourself. Okay? But I'd like somebody here to be the first to try, and I'd like that to be Barrie Shepherd. And you just take it as a bite. And to Ann, thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this. And who else? Who else would like this? Bonnie, I never see you anymore. Good. Okay, and I encourage you all, eat local, eat fresh, support your local farmer, eat everything. And if you don't like it, give it to someone who does. And with that, I'll see you outside. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Boy, I love brown radishes, and my son is here and he loves radishes too, so we are going to have a lot of radish trees. Thank you, James. Thank you for your demonstration. Thank you all for being here. Next Sunday, I believe we are having a performance at 2 o'clock. Is that still on? Okay, 2 o'clock, we're having a musical performance. I believe this one will be in the Great Hall. Okay, with the exhibit of the art. And on June 5th at 2 again in the Great Hall, we're going to have some poetry, some readings by Art at First people are putting this together. Arenka and Barbara and Luann are putting together a lovely reading for us. Short stories and selected poems that are seasonal. And don't forget to look at your insert there. I'll give you some information about the new theater group that is forming here. Art at First is forming a theater group, and you'll hear more about that. We'll be gathering again in September, but if you are a theater person or have any friends who are theater people, think about it, because we're going to need all hands on deck to do a theater group. If you know anything about theater, it really takes quite a large village to put together even a small reading, let alone production. So thank you all for being here and helping us kick off the first of these performances for Creatives Create. And now let's adjourn to the salad.